are true. You probably know this man by a lot of different names. Here's some of the ones that I've heard as I've wandering around tonight. Warwick, the mysterious solar god, was one that I heard. My sage, our brains trust. Someone called him Warwick, the solar dude from Byron. It is possible that almost as many people know him as know Simon Shake. And in fact, it is true, he does have a dog named Sonny. Why? Because he really believes in this stuff. He's the managing director of SunWiz. His real name is Warwick Johnston. We're going to ask him to come up now. Warwick.
Why don't I get started anyway while waiting? There we go. Thank you. All right. Oh, forgive me for... Did I just press something bad? Oh. No, it's back on. Okay. So forgive me for using my notes, but prepared something especially for this event, which I'm actually really excited to talk about, and that's the disruptive convergence of technologies that's happening, not just with renewable energy, but with mobile, internet, all coming together. The shift towards renewables is about so much more than just installing more solar power, though for me that's a large part of it. But where things get really interesting for me is when we look at the benefit of battery storage, decentralised generation, smart grids, and the power of the internet to really revolutionise how we use energy. It becomes really apparent really quickly that the entire foundation of the energy system must be reconfigured. My name is Warwick Johnston. I've been involved in solar since 2005. Yes, it's true, I live in Byron Bay and have a dog named Sonny. And so you can tell I'm passionate about solar energy. But I'm also really excited about the empowerment of consumers through solar and the accompanying political power that we've got now, which means the solar industry is where governments fear to tread. So why am I so excited? Even though solar makes up just a small part of our electricity needs, it's already starting to shake things up. The entire electricity industry was designed for centralised generation. And this was smart because rather than transport coal to every person's house where they had their own little backyard generator, it was more efficient and cost-effective to put a big coal-fired power station beside the coal mine and send your electricity there via wires. And these network of poles and wires were a bit like the old telephone network that we needed to use, except that you couldn't talk back. Now, the problem for the telephone networks, as we've seen, is that we found another way of communicating without those poles and wires. It's called mobile telephones, and they're a leapfrog technology in Africa. Now, the electricity industry faces a similar upstart technology in solar power. Over 1 million Australian solar households now have solar power on their roof, and they're starting to talk back. For we've reached the situation where solar power you can generate on your roof far more cheaply than you can actually buy it from the grid. This is largely because you're not transporting across those hundreds of kilometres of wires to get to your house. For the first time, us consumers are able to compete with the supply of electricity and to do so for a cheaper price than the incumbent competition. No longer does the power industry hold the power, you do. This is leading to some new business innovations in which, rather than outright purchase of solar power, somebody else will finance the system that you put on your roof, and they will sell you electricity from that system. So rather than buying decades worth of solar power up front, you're getting that solar power just purchased at a lower rate than you would from the grid. And the analogy I have for it is like having a second SIM card in your mobile phone. So on that SIM card, you can make very cheap calls during the day, but at night time, you've got the backup of the more expensive but regular old poles and wires, if you like. So that's your main provider. So the power purchase agreements is this kind of business model where you're just purchasing the power that is generated from solar rather than the app system itself. The cool thing about this is no longer is upfront cost a major barrier to solar power. You can really do this already for less than what you're paying for your electricity now. Now, the problem for the electricity industry is this is upsetting their business model. Electricity distribution networks were long considered a natural monopoly. You wouldn't build a second set of poles and wires to compete with them. But now they've got a competitor in solar power and they're seeing their sales volumes decline. And energy efficiency appliances are only making things worse for them. But they've got these fixed costs that they can't do much about. And so their response to declining sales volumes is to increase the price, which only makes solar and energy efficiency more cost competitive and advantageous. So they sell less power, again, increase their price further, sell less, increase. And you see that this is, you get the picture that this is what's called a death spiral for the electricity industry. Now, similar challenges are faced by newspapers, postal services, and the fixed line phone industries. But the problem's acute for the electricity industry because they can't simply scale back the size of their network. They already built it, and when doing so, they gold-plated it as well. But you can use the internet on your mobile to save yourself money, and in doing so, hasten the demise of their outdated business model. They don't have the same luxury. They can't deliver electricity to you via the internet. But this is where it's the convergence of these devices, the mobile internet, smart appliances, that's really putting power back into consumers' hands. So up on the screen at the moment, I've got a couple of examples, like where Google has bought a technology company called Nest, and they paid $3 billion to do so. And Nest enables you to control your thermostat, lighting, and white goods with your mobile phone. This technology doesn't sound like super exciting, except when it's coupled with solar power, you can actually control when you program these devices to go on so that they're staged throughout a sunny day. So you can say, okay, I'm going to put my dishwasher on at 11 o'clock, my washing machine on at 2 o'clock, and I'm even going to put the air conditioner on at 4:30 in the afternoon to pre-cool the house down for when I get home. And in doing so, I'm using all that solar energy that's falling on my roof. And rather than copying the paltry sum that the network will give you if you send that solar electricity out to them and then have to import back at it later in the evening and pay a fortune for it, you're able to really control your costs. And so this is, again, going to be leading to some very innovative business models from the solar industry. But unless they get on board, the utilities are going to face, again, an enhanced death spiral. Now, the network operators are trying to fight back by changing their pricing model so that they're not charging you by how much energy you consume, but just a fixed rate. And for some businesses in Queensland, that fixed rate is like $500 a day just for the provision of having electricity connection. It's ridiculous. And then they charge you 10, 11 cents per kilowatt hour versus what you do in central Sydney is about 50 cents during the middle of the day. Now, they don't get it. They assume that you're all powerless. And it's the same mistake they made the first time. And look what happened. Now, thankfully, people can talk back to the electricity dinosaurs with an emerging solution. This is the next revolution, and it's expected to come from batteries, energy storage. Now, presently, batteries cost too much to be really financially worthwhile. But costs are expected to drop rapidly, just as they did with solar. Tesla Motors, for example, the builder of electric cars, is building a gigantic gigafactory for batteries. And it's expected that this is going to have flow-on effects to home energy storage as well. So effects like reducing the cost of batteries and increasing their performance. And for people with electric vehicles, effectively you're going to have storage for free. So this is going to give people even more independence from the electricity network. And this will soon allow people to disconnect entirely. So at the same time, there's both an opportunity and a challenge for the incumbent electricity suppliers. They can supply you extra electricity for your electric vehicle, but only if they're really smart, and not if somebody else gets to them first with a solar and batteries business model that allows them to disconnect entirely. We're talking about major stranded assets if that happens. So one thing I was thinking about when I was feeling into what would this future look like was, what would it be like to have a set of batteries in the basement? What would it feel like to actually go and cut your electricity wires that connect you to the grid and be totally free from them? And it's kind of like cutting the umbilical cord of a drug-addicted mother and finally giving birth to new freedom of electricity. It's electrifying. I told you I was passionate. So, look, I began this presentation by expressing my excitement for consumer empowerment through solar energy. And one thing I'd like to close is by expressing my gratitude for every person who's shown their support for the renewable energy target. Pandering to the donations and lobbying of the incumbent electricity suppliers, the government looked really certain to decimate the renewable energy target. Until tens of thousands of people took to taking digital campaigns, online petitions, letter writing, word of mouth, and a convergence of technologies enabled people power to outshine centralised fossil power. This government really now is being forced to recognise that it cannot protect the old industry against the wish of 80+% of the population. So thank you for everyone who's been involved. And whatever happens, please. And please make sure that you go and sign up with Solar Citizens, who's organised a great deal of this, and they'll be speaking soon as well. Whatever happens on this individual issue, one thing is certain, and that's the convergence of mobile, digital, mobility, storage, and generation technology will continue to breathe life into electricity and empower consumers. Thank you.